In the last video, we mentioned Boolean values which are true or false. We also need a way to actually perform an action based on if a value is true or false. To do this, we have conditional statements. For example, if a player's health is 0 or less, the player will lose a life. If a player collects 100 coins, then we can add an extra life. Or if the current time is the morning, we could add a good morning message. And if it was in the afternoon, we could change the message to be good afternoon. So basically, these conditional statements allow us to decide what we want our code to do under different circumstances. A common type of conditional statement is if-else. Let's begin with the if section. This basically says, if something is true, then run this code. So over to our starter file. Let's open up number 4, which is if-else and comparison. And then I'm going to open this up inside the browser. Then down to our script section, we can begin to create an if statement. So we add the if keyword, followed by the brackets or parentheses. And then we add a set of curly braces, where we can add our code that we want to run. So let's say we want to add an alert for our message. We need to add a condition where we want this alert to run. So inside of these brackets here, we add our condition. So we say if 10 is greater than 5, then run this alert. And let's add some text saying 10 is greater than 5. So if this is true, this alert will be ran. If this wasn't true, then we wouldn't get anything happening at all. So save that, reload, and there's our alert saying 10 is greater than 5. This greater than symbol is a comparison operator, and there is lots more we can use, such as the less than symbol. So now 10 is not less than 5, so this will be false, meaning if we go over to the browser and refresh, this statement is now false, so we won't see the alert. This is because, as we mentioned before, the code will only run if the condition is true. We can also combine these greater than and less than symbols with the equals operator too. For example, if we were to change this to be 10, and if we were to say if 10 is greater than 10, then do this alert. Refresh. We don't see the alert because 10 is not greater than 10. However, if we want to run a check to see if 10 is equal to or greater than, we can combine them just like this. So greater than or equal to. And now our condition should now be true. And then we see the alert. This also works with less than 2, as you would expect. So if 10 is less than or equal to, then run the alert. So this may be confusing at first because we've already used this equal symbol to assign a value to a variable. So before we've done things such as var x equals 5. So here we're assigning the value of 5 to this x with the equal symbol. Instead, when comparing, we use the double equals. So we can say if x is equal to 10, then alert the value of true. So save that and refresh. And of course, we don't get the alert popping up because x is not equal to 10. We can also add an exclamation mark to do the opposite. So an exclamation and then equals. So if x is not equal to 10, we should now get the alert popping up. Let's try something else. If we add a number, so we already have the value of x equal 5. If we add a second variable of y, and this time if we set the number inside the quotations, just like this, this will be now considered a string because it's inside the quotations. We can check this out if we do a console log for each variable. So let's do a console log just below. And we can say type of, and then x. Save that. And now if we open up the console, we should now see what type of data is contained inside of x. So we see the x is a number, which you would expect because we've declared that just here. However, if we go ahead and change this to be y, refresh. And now we see the date type is string because this is added inside the quotations. So now with this knowledge, let's see how this affects our comparison. So let's go ahead and compare the value of y, which is a string, to 5. So save. So this is a string and this is a number. So in theory, this shouldn't work. So refresh, and we still see the pop-up. So this is evaluating to true even though it's comparing a number to a string. This is because the double equals will only check the value rather than the date type. If we want this comparison to be even more strict, and also check if the value as well as the date type is equal, we can go ahead and change this to be triple equals. Save that, reload, and now we don't see the pop-up because the date type is not equal. Let's try this with x, and x is a number, so we're comparing if x is equal to 5, both in value and also date type. This of course should be true, and we see the pop-up of true. So this works because x is equal type and value to 5. However, we could also add an exclamation mark and the two equals, and this will do exactly the opposite. So now this will only run the alert if x is not equal type and value to 5. So if we save and reload, we don't see the alert anymore. Great, this is how we can use comparison operators, and they are really useful when combined with if statements. As we've just seen, this if statement will run if some code is true. But what if we want an alternative to run if some code is not true? For this we need to add a second condition called else. So let's delete this example from before and create a new variable called hungry, and initially set this to be true. And then we can say if hungry, then inside the quotations we can alert get some food. Just like that. So if we just add the variable name like this, this will check if the variable is true, and then if it is, it will run some code. So let's save, refresh, and there's our text of get some food. However, if we wanted an alternative, we can also add else, and this second block of code will run an alert if the condition is false. So this time let's say maybe later. So now if we change hungry to be false, this if statement is now false, so therefore this code won't run. But instead the else statement will run alerting maybe later. Let's try this in the browser, refresh, and there's our text of maybe later. Let's try this once more by changing this back to true. And now we get some food. These if-else statements really are a fundamental part of JavaScript and also programming in general. So if you're still a little unsure, I would recommend going back through this video to better understand how they work. Although you will get lots more practice throughout this section. Next, we're going to take things even further by nesting these statements together.